Hi, my friends. Welcome back. It's Mrs. Miller here. It's so wonderful to see you. I'm so glad that you chose to be here with me. Today we will be reading Night Owl by Christopher Denise. This book in particular offers us many different life lessons. There are many themes throughout this book. So while we're reading this book, I want you thinking, what does this book teach me about my life? At the end of this story, we will be talking about the many messages that this book has to offer. But first, I want you to do something really cool. I want you to pause this video, go down into the comments, and I want you to write your favorite book in the comments. If you do that, I will make sure to do a read aloud and I will dedicate it to you. I will read your favorite book and dedicate it to you. So I hope to hear from all of you. Okay, now I really hope that you enjoy this book, Night Owl. Night Owl by Christopher Denise. Since the day he hatched, Owl had one wish: to be a knight. Every morning, before he drifted off to sleep, he imagined himself as a real knight. He would be brave. He would be clever. And he would have many friends. It was just a dream until one day, knights began disappearing from the castle. So Owl applied to night school. And to everyone's surprise, he was accepted. Owl was an excellent student, but he had a tough time with a sword. Even the smallest shield was a problem, and he had a habit of nodding off during the day. Night school was hard, but Owl worked and worked. He graduated with honor, as all knights do. Owl was assigned to the night watch. He was very good at his job. The other knights usually fell asleep during the long night watch, but Owl didn't mind. All alone on the castle wall, he finally felt like a real knight. Until late one evening, it was very dark and very quiet when Owl heard a strange sound. Whoosh! It sounded like a huge bird flapping its wings. Hoo! Owl called. He heard the sound again. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Hoo, hoo, he called. Whoosh, hoo, 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 Owl called. Who, me? Said a deep voice. Who, you? Asked Owl. I am a hungry dragon, said the dragon. Owl was very afraid. But because he was now a real knight, and knights are brave, he puffed out his feathers and said, I am an owl, and I am a knight of the night watch. You don't look like a knight, said the dragon. You look like a midnight snack. Owl's feathers trembled, but because he was a real knight, and knights are clever, he said, You don't want me. I am too small, hardly even a mouthful. A mouthful is enough, snarled the dragon. I am all feathers and fluff, said Owl. A great dragon like you needs something tastier and more filling. How about a pizza instead? It turned out that the dragon loved pizza. They talked about how each of them had hatched from eggs, how much they liked the night, and how flying was hard to explain to someone who had never done it before. They really had a lot in common. The following week, not a single night disappeared. Or the week after that. And every night, Owl patrolled the walls. It was very dark and very, very quiet. But Owl didn't mind because he was brave. He was clever. And he had many friends. I just love that story and all of the messages within this story. But before we get into the many life lessons that this book can teach us, let's first talk about the problem in this book. What was the first problem in this book? I want you to call it out when I get to 3. 1, 2, 3. Nights were disappearing. That's right. That was the first problem in this book. Nights were disappearing. Let's take a look back. So, at the very beginning of this book, we learn that nights began disappearing from the castle. And in fact, that is how Owl was able to apply to night school. Now, at this point in the story, do we know why the knights were disappearing? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Thumbs down. We don't know why the knights were disappearing. Do we ever find out why the knights were disappearing? Thumbs up, thumbs down. You say thumbs up? Let's take a look further in the story towards the end. So the author never actually tells us why the knights were disappearing, but we can figure it out as readers if we read into the clues that the author leaves us. So right here, let's reread this part. It says, the following week, oh, by the way, now this is after the owl befriends the dragon and they have pizza together. And now it says, the following week, not a single night disappeared, or the week after that. And every night, Owl patrolled the walls. It was very dark and very quiet, but Owl didn't mind because he was brave, he was clever. And he had many friends. And we can see here who some of his friends are. And they are not just knights, but dragons too. So who do you think was making the knights disappear earlier in the story? Call it out in 3, 2, 1. The dragons. If you said the dragons, you said what I was thinking. What do you think the dragons were doing to make the other knights disappear? Call that out in 3, 2, 1. The dragons were eating the knights. Now, how do we know that? Well, let's look back again. Let's look at what the dragon says here. He says, I am a hungry dragon. And then the dragon goes on to say, you don't look like a knight. You look like a midnight snack. So what did the dragon want to do to Owl the knight? He wanted to eat him. Do you think that we can assume that he probably ate the other knights? Most likely, right? That's probably why they were disappearing. Now, how was Owl feeling during this part of the story? Show me with your face. Ready, set, go. He was scared. Yes, he was so scared. Wouldn't you be scared too? I know I would be scared. But even though he was scared, he was still brave. So that leads me to our first lesson, our first life lesson, the first message that this book teaches us. This book teaches us that even when we are scared, we can have courage and be brave. Have you ever been afraid of something, but you were brave and you overcame that fear? Like for me, when I was a little girl, I was afraid that there were monsters in my closet. And I remember I was afraid to go to sleep one night because I was so scared that there were monsters in my closet after seeing a scary movie. And you know what I did? I took my flashlight and I was brave and I opened the door and I looked inside and guess what? There were no monsters. Have you ever been brave like that? Have you ever had courage where you were scared? But even though you were scared, you acted brave? Well, the next time that you feel scared, I hope you choose to act brave again. Now let's talk about what other life lessons this book teaches us. This book teaches us so many life lessons. Can you think of any other messages or life lessons that this book teaches us? I want you right now to whisper the different life lessons that this book teaches us. One life lesson that we just talked about is that even if you are scared, you can be brave, just like Owl. What other life lessons can we learn from this story? Ready, set, whisper. Stop, look, and listen. Can you show me on your fingers how many life lessons you were able to come up with? 1, maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe 4. How many life lessons were you able to come up with? Thank you for sharing. So let's talk about some other life lessons in this story. Let's take a look back. I want to see if I came up with any of the same life lessons that you came up with. So another life lesson that I thought this book taught us was to believe in yourself. Do you remember earlier in the book where we learn that Owl drifts off to sleep and dreams about being a knight, but it was just a dream until knights began disappearing, and so Owl applied to night school? But do you think that, I think this is probably his mom and dad here. Do you think that his mom and dad thought he would get into night school? Thumbs up, thumbs down. No, right? It says, and to everyone's surprise, he was accepted. So people were surprised that he was accepted. So actually, I feel like this part teaches us 2 life lessons. Number 1, never underestimate anyone, because you never know what people could do if they try. And number 2, believe in yourself. Even if other people doubt you, believe in yourself and your dreams. Now, was Owl good at everything that he needed to do to be a knight? No, right? It says he was an excellent student, but he had a tough time with a sword. Even the smallest shield was a problem, and he had a habit of nodding off during the day. Now, even though he was tiny, and that made it hard for him to carry that big heavy sword and that big heavy shield, he worked hard. It says night school was hard, but Owl worked and worked, and then he graduated with honors. So to me, that teaches us as readers that we can do anything we set our minds to. If we work hard enough and we want something bad enough, we can achieve it. Now, you might have noticed in this part down here, it says he had a habit of nodding off during the day. Do you know why that is? Why was he falling asleep during the day or nodding off during the day? Call it out in 3, 2, 1. Yes, owls are nocturnal. That means that they sleep during the day and are awake at night. So although he would nod off during the day, and there were some other weaknesses that he had, like that he was tiny and he couldn't carry a big heavy sword or hold a heavy shield, he was very good at his job as the night watch. And why was that? That's right. That was because he's nocturnal. So one of the things that maybe made him different from the other knights was also a strength. We all have our weaknesses and we all have our strengths. But if we can find a way to use our strengths, we can achieve great things, just like this owl. Now here, although the dragon is much bigger and much scarier than the owl is more clever, right? The owl uses his brain over the dragon's brawn or his strength. How does he outsmart the dragon? Yes, he tells the dragon, "You don't want to eat me. I am so small. I don't even taste very good. Instead, I think you might like pizza." I mean, who doesn't like pizza, right? And it turns out that this works. The dragon happens to love pizza. And then what else happens here? Yes, the dragon and the owl find out that they have a lot in common. As they talk while they're eating their pizza, they find out that they both hatched from eggs, they both like flying at night, and they talk about how it's hard to explain flying to someone who's never done it before. So they find out they have a lot in common. So even though these two look very different from each other, they have a lot in common. What life lesson can that teach us as readers? That teaches us that even if someone looks different from us, we could have a lot in common with them. So it's always good to get to know someone, get to know who someone is on the inside, because you might find a new friend. Thank you again for being here with me today and for learning with me. Please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this read aloud. And also, don't forget, if you would like me to dedicate a book to you, go down in the comments and write your favorite book down in the comments and also write your name. You could write what state you're from or what country you're from, and I will make sure to dedicate a book to you. Bye bye, everyone. Happy reading and happy learning.